Hello, one and all, and welcome back to the Dark Library. We are back with Kamen Rider Saber after our week off, because Saber was off for a week because of a golf tournament. This happens every year for Kamen Rider, and also for Pretty Cure and Super Sentai. All the Toku stuff around that time slot. Anyway, we are on episode 9, Overlap the Swordsman's Timbre. I can't pronounce that last word in there. But anyway, this episode we start off with the gang standing around Swords of Logos HQ before Buster and Kenzan sent off on a mission to deal with the Megiddo. I don't know what they're dealing with, but it's just some more Megiddo. Storios and the other Megiddo decide to make a power-up for Caliber to rival the power of the Arthur Ride book. So in order to do that, they basically decide to combine the power of some Ultra books, the power of some Wonder Ride books, and the power of the Swordsman into a new power-up for Caliber that he'll be getting, I assume, next episode. I mean, the scans for it are already out and it looks really cool, so we'll have to see what happens when he gets it, or how he'll get it. But, yeah, so Caliber's on the warpath to steal some more people's shit. And so Storios creates another Megiddo, in this case, a Aru Megiddo? I don't know how to pronounce that word, but he makes like 9 other things. They're like a bunch of the little things. They're like duck-themed Megiddo. I don't know what story they're based on. They're just ducks. Interesting. Oh, apparently they're based off the Ugly Duckling, which that makes a lot of sense. Also, they're apparently the first duck-themed kaijin that we've had in Kamen Rider, which is surprising. Seriously, if you've ever seen an angry geese, those things are terrifying. Anyway, there are a bunch of these fuckers running around at once, and that's kind of cool because, we have our 3 riders going to deal with them. Also, one's invisible, and so that's annoying because we have an invisible enemy for the group to fight. And anyway, Toma, Rintaro, and Kento go off to deal with the Megiddo. Also, Mei gets, she gets an upgrade in a way. She gets a special book that lets her see the action without having to go to the action. So basically, it lets her have like a view screen to see the fighting and see when the Megiddo are up to something when they go on the attack. Also, some random woman shows up. Her name's Reika. She just shows up in the Swords of Logos. And we know next episode she's going to hand out a power-up to Kento. I don't know what else she does. Maybe she's also a swordsman? Maybe she's just an auxiliary member? How many members are in the Swords of Logos? Did we ever get that explained? I don't think we ever got that explained. And Sophia steps out for something we'll find out at the end of the episode. So Sophia steps out, so just Mei and Reika in the base for now, while our riders go out and deal with the monster. A lot of this episode's one big-ass fight scene, because, we have the Ugly Duckling Kaijins, and they're running around, and the one's invisible. So, they're having trouble dealing with that, because there's, 4 of them, and one's invisible, so that's the pain. But then Tetsu steps up, and he uses the Arthur Ride book to somehow fix his sound sword, because he has a sword of sound. So we're running out of... so he has some sort of sound, and is able to transform into Kamen Rider Slash, officially, finally. Thus bumping up our rider count to 7, 6 good riders, 1 evil rider for the series so far. Anyway, his sword's interesting because it also transforms into a gun. Now, looking at the Slash suit, it honestly reminded me... A friend of mine says it reminds him of X-Aid, and that's mainly because of the colors and some of the extra features on the suit. But it reminded me of this Evolt suit, like the first Evolt form, not Kamen Rider Evolt, the first Steam Gunner suit he had, which had that little thing in front of the chest area with the, around the face, the little guard thing. It kind of reminds me of that in a way, in a good way, in all honesty, because I honestly liked the first Evolt suit. Anyway. Slash fights with the Kaijin, and he uses sound. He also uses 2 books in this episode. One is his main book, Hansel, Nuts to Gretel, which is a Hansel and Gretel. Also, Nuts is in there. I think that might be some weird translation thing. I don't know. And he uses another book based on sound that puts like speakers on his arm. He does the same thing that all the all the Henshin sword riders in this series has, where they just get like an arm attachment to their transformed state. In this case, gets the speaker added on. So that's interesting. So Tetsu fights the Kaijin with the group, and then Caliber shows up like in every fight so far. He just walks up on stage like he's fucking Kamen Rider Gem. That's what it took me a while to remind me of that. This whole situation reminds me of fucking Gem. So Caliber steps up, walks on stage, and he fights and steals a book from Kento and steals a book from Rintaro. So, they're one less book now, so he steals their books to complete his power up. And then, Toma uses the Arthur book, hits him with it once in order to steal the Journey to the West book. I forgot what exactly the title of that one was. He steals Journey to the West book and gets his complete form, which I'm going to keep calling these. In this case, Crimson Dragon. Which, he is the dragon, the eagle, and the Journey to the West book. The Monkey King, obviously. And it's a really cool form, at least a really cool fight, where, Caliber gets his shit stomped in and has to retreat again. But I think he still has the other 2 books he needed. But anyway, while he's retreating, he ends up running across Sophia, who teleports in, and apparently her life is tied to the headquarters of the Swords logo, so if she dies, the barrier around the headquarters goes away. So this gives me very strong Power Rangers Wild Force vibes with the whole princess there. Not helped by the fact they're both primarily wear white, flowy outfits. Shit, what would happen if she died in the Wild Force? It's been on stuff seeing Wild Force. I don't think her life was tied to the Animarium, but I know bad stuff would happen if she died. Not just because she would be dead, because kids know. Anyway, yeah, so if Sophia dies, Swords of Logos is effectively left out in the open to be attacked by Megiddo left and right. So, yeah, she shouldn't leave the base more. She shouldn't leave the base. But thankfully she's not a dumbass, and Buster's there to be her backup when Caliber tries to attack her. Buster goes in to defend her, and they basically confirm that this isn't Hayato. Obviously, this was obvious because the voice changer and all that kind of stuff. I think I misspoke when they said that they confirmed an actor. They confirmed an actor for the previous Caliber, but not the current Caliber. So this isn't Hayato under the suit. It's someone else. And they're questioning, who are you? How are you there? The current theory is it's the previous Saber. His name's Daichi Kamijo, apparently. That was confirmed some time ago, I think. Current theory is it's Daichi under the suit. We don't know yet. It could be anybody. It could be Tetsuo. How was he in 2 places at once? I don't know. Maybe an alter book. Anyway, that's the episode. Very simple episode, and honestly, this was ultimately a lackluster one for me. I don't know, maybe it was the fact that the fight was kind of dragged out a bit. Like, I felt the fight dragged on a bit too much this episode. It didn't really have a down period. Because, we had the intro, and then we had the outro, and then bulk of the episode is the fight. Oh, I did forget to mention that Toma had a brief stint of writer's block at the beginning, wondering what should I write next. That's an issue that I feel all the time. But at the end of the episode, he figures out that he wants to write a story about the swordsmen and their journey together. Just basically what's going on now. So Jinbuck says he is hinted to be the series, the one chronicling the series at the end of the story. Kind of like a Digimon 02 situation where TK was revealed to be the writing that season. Oh god, Digimon 02. That fanfiction that someone wrote based on the idea that he fucking lied was an interesting one. Oh god, I'm talking about fanfiction. Anyway, yeah. So, that happened. Again, Tom was probably the least interesting in this episode. Least interesting character going on in this episode. But hopefully, next episode, we'll get a bit more going on. Yeah, so this is probably the first episode of Saber that I'm just not that big into. Like, I like Crimson Dragon. Slash is cool. Has a cool suit. Cool to see him transform. Caliber story continuing is interesting. We still have no idea what he's up to, so that's a big thing of it. But, it's pretty lackluster to me in this episode. Like, I really liked the last episode. Last episode felt like a really big moment. This episode feels like last episode's warmed up leftovers in a way. So yeah, not that big onto this one. But I did like Kamen Rider Slash. Interesting note though, well, Tetsuo has this whole calm, almost stoic demeanor outside of his whole "I'm the swordsmith guy" thing, where he basically just gets absorbed into repairing or working with the swords. As Slash, he's a bit of like, it reminds me of fucking, shit, I'm blanking on one of my favorite writers. It reminds me of Grease and Build, how he would just start screaming and all this kind of stuff when he transformed and fought. Maybe it's the sword, maybe transforming does something to his brain like Grease. We don't know. I keep saying that about the series, we don't know yet. They could make a Final Fantasy 13 joke out of that. But yeah, so, Tetsuo gets all wild and rambunctious and dancing and all that kind of stuff. And it's like he's possessed by Ryotaros from Den-O in a way. Also, his sword's a gun, so that would honestly kind of work. His sword is a gun, too. That would be really cool. Someone draw that. Okay, so overall, lackluster episode. Wasn't that huge of a fan of it. It did have some plot stuff going forward. We're looking forward to next week's episode because we're going to get like all of the main writers for the series. We're going to get all their complete forms. We already got Rentaro, so Kento's going to get his complete form next episode. And they're going to deal with the Caliber situation, so next episode's going to deal with the Caliber stuff. And maybe give us some answers. Oh, God. So I will sign off here, but I want to make an interesting note. So apparently a survey came out or whatever that Saber's toy sales are dripping, and also a bunch of people don't really like this show because it feels very toyetic. And oh, trust me, I get that. I understand. This series does feel especially toyetic, but I think that's just because of how much shit's going down at once. It's a product of the rushed pacing of having all these writers at once popping up. Because typically the first 10 episodes of Rider series, especially some of the more recent ones, honestly, I think every series after Gaim, in all honesty, like every series after Gaim, basically they premiered a new form every episode. A new form, a new power-up every episode for the first 10 episodes before settling into stuff around 12 or so. After the first quarter's been released, the first toy sales are out. In this case, everything's just going really fast because we have the 7 writers. They have each their books and auxiliary books, so we know we have that. Then we have our villains and their special transformation trinkets, their altar books. They're all for sale for you to buy at your local Toys R Us. Yes, there's another Toys R Us exclusive form. There's always a Toys R Us exclusive giraffe book or progress key or whatever. So, and that happens in every series. Again, what makes this one feel standoutish is because we have a new writer premiering every other episode. So, that doesn't help. I get they want to get all these guys out for the first quarter sales, but in the long term, it's not really helping. So this show is kind of suffering. I am enjoying it for the most part. I don't think, outside of pulling a ghost, an Agito or Ryuki, which they probably will never do another Agito or Ryuki similar situation. I generally do like Kamen Rider, just off the basis and just the characters and episodes. As long as the characters are enjoyable, I'll like it. And the characters here are an enjoyable bunch. There could be less of them, which I think next episode might also address in a way. there could be less of the characters. You already have our main three. Our auxiliary riders aren't really needed. And we're going to get another one after the movie. And, for the January toys and all that kind of stuff. I mean, you look at every series since Gaim, and basically the first 10 episodes are always new form, maybe a new writer. Every episode for the first 10 episodes, and that's what this series is doing. The first 10 episodes are always very toyetic, especially in the more recent series. I mean, just last season with 01, every episode, the first 10 episodes was a new form debut or a new writer debut, are both in the same episode, and they do that here. But because it's happening so frequently, and because the form change gimmick for the season, it feels less important than it did in, like, let's say 01, for example, which everyone praises the first 10 episodes of 01 as being some of the best few episodes of the series. So maybe this will be an inverse, where we'll look back on Saber and say that the latter half of the series was way better than the first half. I'm really hoping, because I really need the series to pick up, because, again, there's a lot of stuff we don't know yet. I keep saying that phrase, and there's a lot of stuff that can be clarified on. Like, they're drawing out the Caliber mystery a lot, and thankfully the next episode is going to end that mystery. So, yeah. Looking forward to next week's episode. Crimson Dragon looks cool. Series might need to retool its focus a bit and hopefully slow down on these debuts, which thankfully looks like it might be doing starting next week, just because of the whole plot progression of things. It's just standard stuff. So yeah, next week's one will be awesome, hopefully. And I'll see you all next time. On a side note, I really hope that Kamen Gold isn't just a one-off suit like Real Soul Brown. At least Real Soul Brown got a joke fight. Kiryu Gold didn't even get to do anything. I mean, Kamen Gold. Kiryu Gold, someone else. Yes, I just mentioned Super Sentai and Kamen Rider episode. Watch them both. Kira Major's really good.